Welcome to our episode of Reachminds Thoughts for Your Life's Journey podcast. In this podcast today, we will be exploring about discovering your passion in your work, whether you are someone who is at the beginning of their career or someone who's heading into retirement. So lots to look forward to in this podcast. Today, I'm joined by Jennifer Shipside. Jennifer has over 25 years of experience as an executive coach and leadership team facilitator. She enables people to recognize and to play to their strengths and to make more of a difference in their life and in their work. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you, Nita.
So I'm absolutely fascinated by discovering your passion. I know I have endless discussions with people, usually people under the age of 30 who are going, oh, what's my passion? So tell me, Jennifer, why is passion so important?
It's important because we spend more time at work than we do with the people we love. And so it's really important, I think, to be doing work that you feel plays to your values and your strengths, which usually add up to what you're passionate about. Also, when we all have difficult times, and when people are passionate about something, they'll stick with stuff, they'll see it through, they'll find workarounds instead of just giving up and wailing. It's something that I think of it almost as the fuel that drives people forward in a very benevolent way.
I'm curious, you doing this work of people finding passion. When did you discover what your passion was in becoming a leadership coach and leadership facilitator?
I was working in advertising at the time, and I was also doing an NLP course, and I noticed that there was a difference in some companies I was working with between them and companies in exactly the same sector. Some of them were much more successful than others. And it wasn't just the branding or the advertising. It seemed to be something to do with the culture in the organization. And the closer I looked at that, the more it was about what the leaders in the organization were doing, or people's line managers were doing, and what people's colleagues were doing. And I got very interested in leadership behavior. And I was headhunted to a management consultant that allowed me to indulge that passion. And I've never looked back since.
I was going to say that you haven't looked back. In terms of with the passion, it sounds to me that you found your passion. Is there any particular beliefs and values that people have who have passion that they hold on to?
I think it's people who know themselves reasonably well. There are ways you can get to know yourself better. It's people who know what turns them on and what turns them off. It's often people who have a deeper value that makes them feel they need to have a purpose in life. And all of us want to make a difference with what we do. And if you play to your passion, you are likely to make more of a difference. And that has to be very satisfying for almost everybody in the world, whatever they're doing.
Absolutely. And it would seem to me the next question, what sort of occurs to me is some people have passion and some people maybe have to discover it a little bit more. And you talk about self-awareness. Is it also about whether it's innate or is it learned? Do we observe others growing up, whether they have passion, or is it something that we either have it in us or we don't, or what?
That's a very good question. I have no idea whether it's innate or whether it's learned. I just don't have a clue. What I do know is that when people have discovered their passion, it makes them much more focused in what they do. They can decide which areas and which opportunities to take and which to leave behind, even though they seem vaguely interesting, or they can get them on the next rung of the ladder. If they know that it's not going to play to their passion and their strengths, then they know enough. They know in themselves enough to pass it by.
That's a kind of good indicator, isn't it? So
Yes, it
it's
is.
to leave it alone. So how can someone who's maybe at a crossroad in their life and thinking, I don't know what I don't know, how can someone begin to find out what their passion is?
I think there's something about starting to observe the kinds of things that get you in that state of flow or give you pleasure or intellectual stimulation that you enjoy, and making a list of them almost. And that's not just in your work life. For many people, it can be stuff that is in their hobby, their sport, the things that they do outside that they really enjoy. And then starting to notice patterns. I use a kind of matrix that I call the playing to your strengths and adding value. And I guess playing to your strengths is noticing what you're good at, asking people for feedback about what you're good at. Because most people in the UK just don't get enough feedback. And if they do, it's sometimes more focused on the things they're not doing well than the things that they do well. Ask around. Ask people, what do you think I'm good at? What have you noticed that I enjoy? Start noting those things down, one per post-it note, and then notice the things that really turn you on, the things that you would really enjoy doing. I met a friend in a coffee shop last year, and she was teaching and absolutely hating it. Higher education changed a lot recently and absolutely hating it. And she sat down and noticed all the things that she liked doing, very few of which were to do with teaching these days. But it was her sort of hobby on the side that she suddenly thought, I could set up a business doing this. I'm very good at this. I love doing it. It's the thing that gives me joy during my day or my evenings. I'll do that. And that's what she decided to do. So she kept an eye open for the things that she really enjoyed doing.
I'm looking at your matrix that you very kindly shared with me, the strength value matrix.
Mhm.
And I can see that on one side of it, it says energizing, you're playing to your own strengths. And then there's added value. And it's got the four quadrants in there, feels tempting, feels draining, feels like I'm on fire, feels like a chore. We'll all share on the show notes. So tell me a little bit, is that what you're talking to?
That's what I'm talking about. If you are looking to change your career direction, and I work with a lot of people who want to do that, they've climbed up the ladder automatically and discovered, oh, I've got where I thought I wanted to go, but this isn't very satisfying. I wonder what I should be doing. What's better? So I ask them to think about what is it they enjoy doing and what is it that they enjoy doing that people would pay lots of money for, if that's or would pay them at least enough for them to feel comfortable. Some of the best careers advice for a teenager is find out what you love doing and now find a way to get somebody to pay you for doing it. So it's about finding out what your strengths are and where you might add more value in the company or the organization you're in at the moment, or indeed somewhere else where you can play more to your strengths. A lot of us, the quadrant which is about it adds value, but it feels like a bit of a chore, is where you're not playing to your strengths, but you've got to do it. Now, we all want to do some of that work in our jobs, but if you're doing lots of it, usually playing to learned behaviors and strengths rather than your natural preferences and strengths, it takes a lot out of you.
I guess the last point you're raising, Jennifer, is one around it's what we get caught up in our world, the should or a must, or they won't like it. I guess those are the kind of things that probably prevent people from taking that leap into perhaps connecting with their passion because their fear is that other people may not agree with them or they might be going against some family values or something.
Absolutely, absolutely right. Sometimes people who are really nice people to work with are like that because they're very empathic. They've learned what pleases other people, and that makes them extraordinarily flexible, which is great for the other people and sometimes means that the person is actually bending themselves out of shape to please somebody else. There is a particular syndrome that I think very much applies to senior women, and it's again and again, I call it dutiful daughter, which is you grow up pleasing usually mummy, but sometimes mummy and daddy, and then you move that into your corporate life, your business life, and you start trying to please your bosses. Now, that can be very effective, and it can take a lot out of you. You find it hard to say no. You start taking on things that you shouldn't be taking on. You're spreading yourself too thin. You're playing to your learned behaviors and skills rather than your strengths.
So how do you crack that?
It might be useful to put on your website. I've done a handout that's called Saying a Nice No.
Okay, I'd love the maybe share it with me.
All sorts of ways of saying an acceptable no that isn't just shan't, which is nice people often feel that they'll be seen like that if they say no or not yet. But there's loads of ways of getting around that and managing people's expectations so that you can shape yourself to the job and shape the job to you.
That's a good word, but it shaped the job to you. I guess if you gone past the notion of that you have to be a pleaser in order to progress, you shape the job to yourself. And your lovely handout that you're going to share with me, which I will put on the podcast, is nice way of saying no. I'm sure there are many ways we can all learn from saying no in a nice way, Jennifer. That would be a bonus. So just in terms of rounding up, what kind of tips and resources would you point people to in order to start their journey of discovering their passion, whether they're at the beginning of their careers or maybe even ending, moving towards retirement?
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps you can speak to both because there may be different things.
They may well be different things, and some of the pools are very, very similar. The thing that I'm semi-retired, so I do work that interests me with the clients I'm fond of, and I say no to other stuff. But it's just as appropriate as you're starting your career. You and probably I have read every time management book known to man and woman, and they're all based on productivity. And there's nothing wrong with that. There are ways to make ourselves more focused, more productive, add more value, if you like. But actually, the book that really changed things for me was a book by Oliver Burkeman. And Oliver Burkeman used to write, maybe still does, a weekly column in either the Guardian or the Eye at the weekend, where he would look at some new psychological book or finding and explore it. And he's written a book called 4,000 Weeks. And he says, this is a time management book, except the outcome is very different from any other time management book you've ever read. The outcome here is that you get more joy in your life. So you're focusing on the things that give you more joy. Now, I do recognize that is a huge luxury for some people who just have to pay the rent and put food on the table. And even then, there are things that they may be more passionate about than others. But it was the book that made me recognize that I could retire and I could do some interesting projects. I did not have to keep working. And I was a lot of a workaholic before. I think that's one of the best and most useful first steps. The next one is to do the exercise with the strengths value matrix with a mate.
I like that. You don't have to have a coach. You can do it with a mate.
No, you can do it with a mate, provided they ask you the questions and then shut up. They're not offering their advice. They just make some notes for you and then leave you to it to do your thinking by yourself.
Lovely. Few resources for people to dig into. Looking forward to receiving the one-pager on saying no nicely. I'm sure we can all do with that. I want to say thank you very much of giving some very practical ideas how people can begin their journey of their own agency of looking at their careers and finding what brings them joy, actually. I think that's a very important key word that we can all do a lot more with. So thank you very much, Jennifer.
You're most welcome, Nita. It was a joy to work with you.
Thank you. If you enjoy listening, tell a friend.